Hey guys, so in this video is where I'm going to really dig deep on how I made my money and how that effectively, as I said previously, how that ended up kind of destroying my life and my family's life. Uh, right on. So, as I said, I came from a very poor family. They were refugees from the Second World War. My grandparents from both sides are from Poland. Uh, I don't have right in saying that they didn't fight in the right side of history, let's put it that way. So I don't have much happy stories to share about them. Uh, in this video, I want to share how I made my first million. And that's going to be all over the place because I want to discuss a lot of things. Uh, and maybe I should kind of split these videos where I tackle only the psychological aspects of what brought me there, and another one for the pure technical side and the computer science side. But basically, what happened was I had a very rough childhood. I will not bash my parents at all. I love my parents, but I don't communicate with my mother for years because of personal problems that we had. I don't intend to, and during my childhood, it was rough. Right, I always lived with most of my lifetime. I lived with my mom, and my parents were separated, and she always told me how useless I was, or I that I would never be anything in this life, that I would never get anywhere. That I have many memories, very bad memories of her looking me in the eye and saying that I grew up to clean dishes. Right, that was my goal. And then I went into game development. I started developing games uh, for dev jams like Ludum Dare. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar. I'm not sure what kind of public I'll be hitting, but it's a game jam where you have to program a game in 48 hours. So I started self-learning myself. I taught myself how to code when I was around 8 to 9. I'm lying. My father actually started teaching me the basics of coding when I was 8. Uh, I'm trying to remember the language that it was. It was something like BASIC or something. And I got interested in that. And when I was around 12, I really delved into it and started programming games for those competitions. That's when I expressed my mother that I wanted to become a computer scientist and maybe study computer science because I was lost up until my 12 to 14. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and my mother was heavily pressuring me on what I would become and how useless I was because I didn't do the life chores correctly. As you can see, everything's messy. I don't like organizing my stuff. I don't like washing dishes. I hate it, actually. And she was very into me about these matters, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so therefore, when I got into game programming, I really developed a passion for it. And I said, okay, I want to be a computer scientist. My mother looked me straight in the eye and said, okay, do you know X guy, whatever? It was a guy that worked in my school at the time, and he was responsible for maintaining the network of the whole system of the school. So if you're the guy that does that, big shout out to you. Hopefully you're doing great. But my mother said, do you know him? And I said, yeah, I know him. Yeah. If you do computer science, that's what you're going to do. You're going to spend your life fixing computers, resetting computers. Obviously, she had no idea what computer science was, and up to this day, I'm sure that she still has no idea what IT is in general, but that's what she told me. So you can imagine how I was very motivated in continuing, and I'm being serious. The more my mother put me down on everything that I wanted to do, the more I wanted to do it, right? So that was a double-edged sword as well, because a lot of things that she said that she didn't want me to do it because it was not right, and she was right, ended up backfiring because I was so angry at her that I went and done it anyway because I wanted to do it just because she said that I should not, right? So yeah, so that's when I got into computer science. I started studying, self-studying, reading articles. I had, and I still have, friends online that helped me and constantly helped me with programming. Uh, Big shout out to Zenslands and Ghost ID. You guys are awesome. We've been friends since I was a child. They know all my story, and they're great game developers. If you guys, one of them is the creator of Mind Blocks, which was a 2D version of Minecraft that blew up at its peak, and we are friends. It's gonna be 10 or 12 years since we started our friendship, and these guys really helped me through all that I was going through. So not only depression, but I've been through sickness and bunch of heavy stuff, and these guys were always there for me. So big shout out to you guys. You guys are awesome. Anyway, so I got into computer science, started studying, started making a couple of games, posting on Newgrounds, and earning a little bit of revenue money. And okay, that's how it all began. I got my first job as a software engineer when I was around 18, I guess, which was a PABX sort of startup. So we had basically all those automatic phone calls that you guys get, annoying ones, the spams and the queues of attendance. I don't know if you guys have that on the countries that you're watching this, but on third world countries, this is like hell. We have all these buildings filled with people and scammers calling you every day. So yeah, I helped build one of these systems way back in the day in Node.js, which was sparkling at the time, which I think it was 2015-ish. That's where I got my first job. My first job was quite stressful, and it was the job that I learned the most. Like, if you ask me, do you recommend this company? It depends. Do you love what you do? Do you love programming and you want to get better at what you do? Then yes. But you will not be in a very good mental condition, because as a startup, that company was completely disorganized. I had direct contact with the CTO. I had direct contact with the CEO. The CEO happened to be the brother of one of the biggest CEOs in my country, so I was very lucky to get that job, I guess. No, I did not have any friends that worked there and got me the job. I didn't went through any difficult interview processes. It was a simple interview with a couple of technical questions that I wrote on paper. It was a presential interview. It was not remote. And they hired me on the spot. There was, at that time in 2014-15, people were hiring programmers to learn programming. They were like, "Are you willing to learn programming?" Yes. Okay, so you're hired. And I know that because I hired a couple of people like that. That's how the shortage of the market was 10-15 years ago. So yeah, I started my journey there, and that's where I learned a lot about programming for real. Like my first day, I remember sitting down, and the CTO looked at me and said, "Okay, so I have this CSV file, which is 10 gigabytes long. I am," and the CTO had a background of it was communication engineering or something. So he was very technical, but he did know a little bit about PHP, but not deep enough to really do something interesting. And that's why they hired people like me who were willing to go and deep dive and learn how to do those interesting things. And so what happened was he looked at me and he said, "Okay, so I have this 10 gigabyte CSV files of call IDs and events that are processed in our central communication system, and I want you to parse that into a way that we can analyze it and model it, because currently there's no way to integrate this into anything." And way before there came Power BI and all this stuff, but that was just the start. So the first day on the job, I was asked to write a CSV parser to model, and he gave me a specific structure of the object that he wanted each column to be, right? So he was like, "Okay, I want this data to each column, each row has to be parsed and returns me this object, right? And I want this object later parsed, processed, and saved to the database, right?" Yeah. So when I got this job, I think I had one before. I think I was working for a month before in a very small startup as well. I was working with PHP and a little bit of SQL, but I had no idea what any of that was, honestly. I mean, most of my programming had been in ActionScript. I don't know if you guys remember, but Apple killed it. It was in Flash. So I had no idea what databases were. I knew what basic SQL commands were. I knew some basic programming, but I had no idea about data structures, algorithms, how they related to databases. I was completely clueless, right? And he was paying me a salary that I could barely, it was a salary that, since it was the center of my city and the city that I live in is the center of the country that I live in, we have a very expensive cost of life. So the salary that he was paying me was like enough to eat and pay for my traveling home and back and forth to the office. But I didn't care because I wanted to learn, right? And in the first day when he gave me that task, I swear to God that I went to the bathroom and I cried, because he didn't say like, "Okay, you have to do this, but I can help you and you can deliver it to me whenever you can." No, it was like, "Okay, so this is your first day. I think it was a Wednesday, so you have until the next Thursday to deliver everything, and I want this database replicated to another." And in that case, we were using MongoDB. Anyway, I just went to the bathroom and I cried, right? So at that time, we couldn't just go to YouTube and find complete projects. And today it's so easy, guys. Today you can become. I'm sorry. I apologize for any doctors watching this, but you can pretty much become a doctor by just looking up articles in the internet and downloading all the data, all the books that are used in Harvard, and study and get yourself whatever you need to practice, right? I'm not saying that teachers are useless, but I'm saying the point that I'm trying to make is that data is more available than ever today. So it's never been easier to be a programmer or a doctor or whatever. At that time, it was not so easy, right? So gathering information pretty much always required you to go to Stack Overflow and get humiliated by a bunch of guys who, for some reason, were so toxic at that time. I don't know you guys, your experience, but I started using Stack Overflow in 2012. And I don't know, once maybe I would just post my profile so you guys can check it out, my questions and the type of answers that I got. People were completely toxic and disgusting. Like, how can you not know that? This is so obvious. That's how you do it. You should read the docs. And I had read the docs, but it was not explicit to me because I didn't understand how to read the docs, you know? So, and that's understandable. I mean, you should try to be kind and so that this person can know the direction of the learning that they should take. So, for example, okay, so this is how you read the doc, right? This means that, this means that. At least that's what I would reply to. That's not what happened. They would give me just like some vague answers and toxic answers, and I was like, okay, fuck you. And I had 1 week to learn how to do that. And believe me, I did it. I spent, I don't know, me and I had at that time, I had another guy who was working, and he was as clueless as I was. And he looked at me and I looked at him. We never even had set a breakpoint anywhere. And we were like, okay, we're doing this. And we spent like nights and nights inside of the company office. We slept on the chairs and woke up like, and we dreamed like, we slept like 2 or 3 hours a day, and we woke up to learn more, to understand the system. Because what happened was that the company had laid off most of the main developers that developed the system. And I don't know if they fought or if they were going bankrupt. So what they did was they made the super smart decision of fire every single developer that developed the system and hired cheap labor that had no clue about programming whatsoever. And for their company, not such a good idea. For me, it was the best experience of my life. Why? Because I learned what I needed to learn, right? So I am very grateful actually for that. I had to teach myself how to learn. And there's all these people about talking about that you need a degree for by the way, I went to I have a bachelor in physics, and guys, I tell you, universities in 10 years, we're not going to be hearing about universities anymore. It's not about sitting on a bench and hearing someone preach to you how you should approach a certain goal. No, that's not what learning is about. Learning is about knowing how to learn. So you learn how to learn. When you learn how to learn, you can learn anything, and life becomes very beautiful because you can learn anything, and everything is interesting enough if you go deep into it. So yeah, in 1 week we delivered what we were expected to, and they were satisfied, and we were getting to know the system a little more. By the way, it is a complicated system because since we are dealing with real-time phone calls, we have to record every phone call that is happening, that has happened, that will ring, where it will ring. So if you have like a queue of employees waiting to pick up the phone, it has to schedule a priority queue, and if that guy doesn't answer, it has to exclude that node and it goes to the next one. Sometimes you want to do that in parallel and deliver to all the lines at the same time, and the first guy that picks up will exclude the other nodes. Anyway, there are several strategies that are implemented into this, but it is a very complicated system. And up until the time that I resigned from that company, I had no idea how complicated it was. I developed several features that I don't know I managed to do it, honestly. I mean, I don't know how that company still works, by the way, and they're making a lot of money. That I'm happy about it, and I know that it's running my code because I can go to the DOM selector and inspect it, and I just know it. I can see all my shit code still running in production. So that's something that I'm very proud of. I know they're making millions, not of dollars, but in my local currency. They're not rich or anything, but they're making a lot of money, and they are running my shit code from 15 years ago, and that makes me fucking proud, guys. So yeah, that's where I learned how to learn, okay? And that's where I got interested in system design and distributed systems and so forth. And that's when my life took a very, very, very brisk turn. But I will leave that for the next episode. I will leave this as a cliffhanger because I received at the time. In that time, we used to receive like 10 to 15 LinkedIn recruiters per day. It was ridiculous. Like we were like we used to say that we were the modern time. How do you call them? Uh, Construction workers. Like we were the modern time construction workers because we were in so much demand. And I received two interesting propositions, and one from a big company, very renowned in my country, and another one, not so much, but that could get me a lot of cash. So I'll be talking about that in the next video. Hopefully, this video somehow was enjoyable, or at least entertain whoever watched it, if it's my family, if it's my kids, if it's whoever it is. So I'll see you in the next video.